Smackdown had a generous helping of absolute carnage, as the Roman Reigns show for 1 week only became the Daniel Bryan show. With a big win for Bianca Belair and a battle of whispers between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, it's time for your WWE Smackdown review. Don't forget to join me for the Royal Rumble watch party over on twitch.tv/Tom Colohue tomorrow just before the pre-show starts. Smackdown opens with Daniel Bryan. He cuts a promo about how the Royal Rumble works, as he has for a number of weeks, and in typical WWE tradition is immediately interrupted by AJ Styles. AJ Styles, who is apparently on Raw. Supposedly the brand vs brand invitational is still a thing, they just forget about it until it's convenient. I would probably put money on the idea that we'll be seeing this again in the build to WrestleMania. Using the medium of look how big and scary my bodyguard is, we end up with a singles match between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan later in the night. That would be exciting if it had been the focus in the actual segment, but more on that later. Bianca Belair finally gets a clear run at a one-on-one match with Bayley and passes that test with flying colours, potentially meaning she could be clearing her schedule for a Royal Rumble win. Afterwards she cuts a promo on the ramp, essentially saying that she's going to be true to who she is, which if you'd like to know who she is, you can do required watching in the form of a WWE Chronicle. Baron Corbin once again defeats Dominic Mysterio in a match that is probably best described as sloppy. Baron Corbin is still being built as dominant, physical individual who he hasn't been for a while, but against Rey and Dominic he certainly fits that bill. They're also making a big deal out of previous Golden Gloves winners, such as Baron Corbin. That may come into play come WrestleMania. Miz and Morrison turn up to annoy Big E, while Big E is trying to bribe Sonya Deville. As usual, I'm incredibly jealous of the fact that I don't look as good as Sonya Deville does when I wear a suit. Sasha Banks and Reginald argue about wine. Sami Zayn tries to talk Shinsuke Nakamura into working together again, but Shinsuke Nakamura is having none of it. That will play into later in the night. Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens open the second hour with a whispered war on words so quiet that the Thunderdome audio almost completely swallows it up. Reigns makes a point of asking about Kevin Owens' father, asking if he was a smart man. This succeeds in massively riling up Kevin Owens, who becomes more and more impassioned the more Roman Reigns speaks to him. As Owens loses his temper, Roman Reigns shows some of that I know I'm magic and turns off the TV, which somehow also turns off the webcam. Good old physics. It's a very strong segment, and it's also very good to see them outside of the ring for once. Admittedly they've been brawling around the Thunderdome, but it's nice to see a non-physical exchange, because we've been seeing physical exchanges for about 12 weeks. Styles vs Bryan starts early in the second hour, and after a fashion continues through until the end of the show. They have what you would expect of the two of them, a high quality, high paced match, but the WWE's focus is very much not on the match. Instead we see firstly Cesaro, then Sami Zayn, and finally Big E come out and hang around ringside. Big E, while Sami Zayn is begging off, calmly takes off his coat and his title and attacks him. As an end result of this skirmish, which Daniel Bryan does get involved in, Sami Zayn interferes in the singles match and costs Daniel Bryan the victory. Daniel Bryan has a rough time tonight. This ends in a 3-on-2 beatdown, with Big E helping Daniel Bryan on one side, meanwhile AJ Styles, Sami Zayn and Cesaro take up the other. The numbers are eventually evened by Shinsuke Nakamura, who turns up to help out and attack his own tag team partner, though Cesaro does do some good work in making sure we're aware that this can happen on commentary beforehand. That's not all though. While the WWE take a break to hide the fact that they're going to a 6-man tag, we then see Miz and Morrison involved, which brings out Otis, who at least has some sort of storyline with Miz and Morrison, whereas Miz and Morrison have very little in common with everything else that goes on in the ring. This results in a 5-on-4 handicap match, but then Sheamus turns up, who has apparently just been hanging around backstage in his wrestling gear just in case. The resulting 10-man tag is won by Sheamus, Sheamus clearly picking up the victory in the singles match between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. However, That's not all, because Braun Strowman turns up, attacks the heels, essentially signifying yet another face turn, and stands tall at the end as the dominant big guy taking on the Big Show role in the upcoming Royal Rumble. How are you going to eliminate Strowman? He's so big. SmackDown this week felt like Raw, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It promised big and somewhat delivered, but mostly under-delivered. The first hour was quite good, with the opening promo, Bianca Belair's big moment as well. The second hour started well with what was happening with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, but it quickly descended into the standard WWE Royal Rumble go-home show format of get as many people as possible in the ring and start throwing them over the top rope. It's Raw booking, and SmackDown for so many weeks has been a very good show because it's avoided that. Now, unfortunately, the WWE needed it to play a small part in a bigger picture, and SmackDown suffered because of it. Nobody suffered more than Daniel Bryan. Hopefully next week, after we have Royal Rumble winners, we'll get back to the SmackDown that we know and have started to love all over again, even if Roman Reigns will almost certainly move on from Kevin Owens. What happens with Daniel Bryan after such a bad night? Well, I think a very good night will probably do him the world of good. I've been Tom Colohue. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you can, and join me for my Royal Rumble watch party here and on twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.